One, two, three. Yeah, it's working. Yeah, hello everybody. I try to keep it more interesting, like more about like space, less about technical sides. And we will start with like one question: where does space begins? Anybody knows where the official space begins? Because we heard a lot about the space, like space technologies, satellites, launchers, but actually space is closer when like we think. Even Tallinn or Vilnius, it's like much, the distance is higher, like bigger than the space. Space begins just 100 kilometers from us. It's very like close to us, so we definitely should think about it. But how many people there are right now in the space? You wanted to take a picture? You can. I can come back. How many people there are in the space? Like sometimes. I ask myself this question, and there is a website. It's called "How many people right now there are in the space?" And right now there are 10 people in the space, like 10. Sometime, like last time I checked, it was just 3. And if we go to the list, there are some people who stayed for more than 1 year in the space. Can you believe 1 year in the space? It's like you go sleep, you cannot sleep on the bed. You're sleeping just in some, I don't know, like horizontal, vertical position, and it's. I think that's really cool. And anybody knows that there is just more than one station on the space right now. There's ISS. We all know. We all hear like during the last 2 days, I think several times about it. But there's also Chinese station, which is on the space, and actually Chinese. It's already, I think, second station in the last few years, and they're really building like great products. I think soon they will have several stations from China, and they will like at least half of the population will move to the space. So we will see just few people from Europe, Russia, and US, and 1,000 from China. Yeah. First of all, I wanted to like also discuss the space technologies. Mainly, they can be splitted on the upstream and downstream. And upstream, it's like you see rockets and satellites. Downstream, it's basically a ground application of the space like hardware. And for upstream, it's yeah, launch vehicles like launchers, rockets. SpaceX is building, Orbix in Europe is building. Like we all know from like China, even India is building their own rockets. Also satellites and control systems. We all hear about this like every day there is like SpaceX launching 1,000 satellites. But what about downstream? We're all using the downstream every day, like navigation, meteorology. We all check the weather. What's the weather today? Weather actually is not so good today, but that's was predicted a few days ago, thanks to the space sector. And Earth observation, we all take a Google picture, like we check Google pictures sometimes where we go somewhere. That's thanks to the space sector and communication as well. Like you know, there are like these phones which were used by terrorists, for example, on the several films. That's thanks also to the space communication, actually. And we all think that launchers and satellites, it's a big industry, but actually, if we discuss, compare upstream and downstream, upstream, it's just 10 billions. But if we talk about the downstream, it's worth more than 300 billion. So basically, if you are willing to make a space business, definitely you should think about downstream. That's where money is. And actually, every investor in the space industry, not maybe the first question, the second question is, what is your downstream application? Because that's where the money is. So make sure if you build a space business, make sure that you have a downstream application as well. At least maybe lie a little bit, yeah. Yeah, space news. I will also discuss with you like my own thoughts. Right now, there is even more than 4,550 satellites. I think right now it's above 5,000 satellites. And also, if we compare like still live satellites and dead satellites, like a few years ago, amount of dead satellites was higher than live satellites. Right now, it's changed. But around, I think, 3,000 satellites on orbit right now is just debris. Just nobody can get rid of them. Right now, it's getting a problem, and soon I think we will get rid of them. But right now, like a lot of like debris in the space. you cannot see the numbers, but there is like a list of top satellites on the orbit right now. And the leader is the SpaceX with 1,655 satellites in orbit, and they plan to launch roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 satellites. And I think it's really awesome, because to build 3,000 and 4,000 satellites, you need to build a whole ecosystem around it, and it will show that actually it's possible to launch and build satellites in a very short time frame, because before it took us like years. Some missions, it took like 20 years to build a satellite. So it really proves that space is not so long anymore. Still, it's much longer than like terrestrial, like business, space, Earth business, but it's possible. I also wanted to discuss several like news. What are the plans for the space, and what is really like from my opinion very interesting, that we will be back on the moon in 2024, maybe a few years like longer, but still. I think it's amazing that we will see the people who like will travel to the moon, because actually a few years ago I was on the satellite 20, I think it was satellite 2019 event, where I met the second person who stepped on the moon after the Armstrong. Unfortunately, Armstrong is not anymore with us, but the second person, he's alive, and he's like very interesting in the discussion, and yeah, soon we will see much more these kind of people who travel to the moon. Also touch the sun, the solar probe mission that will touch the sun and will get us a lot of interesting data, because right now, like still the closest satellite which is to the sun is like million kilometers. Sometimes you cannot get out of the bed to walk 10 meters, not 10 meters, but 100 meters to the shop, but here is 1,000,000 kilometers from the sun, and it will be much closer. All we heard last year, the launch of James Webb Space Telescope, very promising and very important mission for us to understand where we are coming from, to like dive in 3 billion years ago into the like history, to check what's happened actually with the Big Bang theory and etc. We also know that there are a lot of commercial space missions. Actually, I think months ago, there was a first, like maybe 1-2 months ago, there was the first commercial space mission, when like a mission was launched on a Space Dragon to the ISS. Also very interesting. It means that soon anybody will be able to go to the, like right now, also anybody can go if you have 50 millions, but soon I think it will be much cheaper. So it will be, I hope it will be less than 1 million to go to the space, so anybody will at least can try to go there. New mega constellations, thanks to the SpaceX as well. Right now, to launch 1 kilogram, it costs like, to the company it costs 10 to 15,000 to launch 1 kilogram, but to the company which is building a satellite and launching it, it costs more than 25,000 per kilogram. And thanks to the SpaceX, soon it will be like less than 10,000 for sure to launch a kilogram, and there will be an opportunity to launch around 70,000 satellites per year. And I think it's really important for Internet of Things, for a lot of connectivity issues, like and other. So I think it will make a huge difference. And new space stations. If you have been to US space conferences, almost like every sixth startup is trying to build a space station around the Earth, space station on the moon, space station around the moon, and there's like a lot of these space stations. But if at least 1% of these startups will succeed, we'll have a lot of other new space stations in the next 15-20 years. Also, Latvian space news. Maybe there are not so many, but still there are. First of all, if you're really interested in our space industry, there is a special website where you can see all our space startups, space companies working in the space sector. Very interesting, because we do not have rockets, like commercial rockets. We had the one which was built by Paulus Urbans and flew 100 kilometers. I hope soon we will fly like higher, but I think it's yeah. I am out of the time. Yeah, it showed. It's more 6 minutes. Okay, thank you. Yeah, actually, you can check it, and it's very interesting how our company is doing the business in the space, because there are very niche and specific hardware products which are built only in Latvia, in the whole world, like BCI instruments. Only their hardware is used on nuclear plants or on space stations, which are checking the radiation. Like about Eventec, I will tell you about a little bit later, but we have our own space strategy as well. It's very promising to like how many space companies will have like new space startups will have every year, how many missions we will be planning to participate in, and it's growing. We started from this almost zero, from the scratch, and we are building this community around our scientists, entrepreneurs, etc. And yeah, I will be later here to discuss if you're interested. And we are also planning to build and start our ISA Big. So basically, we'll be incubating startups in Riga and probably also in Ventspils. And I think it's a huge, like it's a small step for like human, but a huge for a business startup, like for businesses in the space sector in Latvia. I'm back to the first slide actually, because space, high precision, how, where, and why. That's what I'm doing for the last almost 6 years. I'm building a space startup which is building hardware for high precision measurements. And the high precision measurements, that's signal processing, it's time of flight measurements, time tagging, a lot of words which might not be familiar to you, but that's that's required almost in every single application in the space. The first one is a distance measurement, where you are measuring the thousands and hundred thousands of kilometers. You really need a high precision, because otherwise you can miss the planet, and the whole mission can be like fail. For synchronization and timekeeping, for precise synchronization in a space, there are a lot of atomic clocks. If your, like for example, watch is showing time with a precision of 4 figures after the comma of seconds, we are doing it with 12 figures after the comma, much more precise. And this precision is really required in the space. Also for communication, laser and optical, where you're communicating with the intersatellite, satellite, Earth stations, the precision matters, because optical communication at the speed of light, you need really high precision to work with these tools. Yeah, there are applications where it's applied for a LiDAR, altimetry system, navigation systems, landing. One of our first mission, which unfortunately maybe it will fly, but a little bit later, was Luna 27. We were building a LiDAR for a landing platform on the moon. So basically, a very interesting mission to participate in. But right now, the mission which we are working spending a lot of time on is it's Hera mission, where there will be 2 satellites. One actually flew last year, and we will try to understand if we can save our world from an asteroid. If it will fly directly to the Earth, and this mission will test it. One satellite will hit the asteroid, and another will measure. The one which is measuring will have altimeter built by Latvian company based here in Riga, Eventec. That's where I'm working. Together with the Portuguese partners, we are building a very precise altimeter system. But actually, we started this with the ground applications, with terrestrial applications, with the satellite laser ranging industry, market. There are a lot of stations around the world which are measuring the distance from the ground to satellite to understand how tectonic plates are moving, to understand what is happening with our Earth, how it's moving, how it's shaking, to understand how the gravitation is working, and that's a very niche application, but very important. That's where we started, and it was very beginning of our space, let's say, trip here. Right now, we have more than half of this market, where our timer is placed. Yeah, actually, I finished my presentation, but if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer them, maybe after my presentation, because I'm over the time. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pavels.